This is Up. I'm David Gura, and for decades, Georgia voters have picked presidential candidates on Super Tuesday, but this year, officials from the Peach State are making what they hope will be a power play. Georgia has pushed its primary date back by 3 weeks to March the 24th, and that means Georgians will not go to the polls until after delegate-rich states like Texas and California. Also means that in a crowded field of 24 Democratic candidates, Georgia could get a lot more attention as a state that is still in play. Well, this decision has been a long time coming, held up by the state's efforts to replace outdated voting machines. They're now planning to use an electronic ballot marking system, and voters would be able to verify how they voted with a printout. Officials say this new system offers a secure method for post-election audits, but in light of election security concerns, some critics are pushing for a return to paper ballots voters would fill out by hand. Jason Johnson joins us now. He's the politics editor of TheRoot.com. He is also an MSNBC political contributor. Give us your read of what happened here. This date was set more quickly, I think, than a lot of people thought. Many people thought this wasn't going to happen until these machines were confirmed ordered. Your reaction to what this means for voters in Georgia?
I don't think it's a good thing, David, for voters in Georgia for several reasons. First off, the entire electoral process in Georgia is compromised. We've seen that from the various court cases from Fair Fight Action. Moving these votes back, one, it doesn't necessarily make Georgia any more important because there's a good chance that after Super Tuesday, the race might be down to one or two people anyway. So it doesn't necessarily make Georgia more important. But also this, you got to remember, the idea that Georgia's Secretary of State and governor are waiting for these new voter machines to figure out exactly which vendor, that doesn't necessarily improve the voting quality for the people who are actually going to be pulling a lever or pressing a button, because the paper printouts are not guaranteed to actually list who you voted for. It may be a barcode. And if it's a barcode, we could have the same kind of problems that we had last fall, even if you just happen to have everything on paper.
Elie Mystal, do you agree with Jason there? Do you think that this could be a bad thing for voters in Georgia?
I mean, it could be. And I think Jason's point about like how the integrity itself of the election is still up in the air, and that's really the problem. In terms of the timing, I don't disagree with Jason, but like, yeah, look, I live in New York. Like, we're holding our primary for like 2008 in like 4 days. Like, you know, so like I don't.
There will be one machine.
Right? I cry a little bit for states that are a little bit later. I think Jason is Dr. Johnson's right. Like, you could be in a situation where we're down to 2 or 3 candidates by the time we get to Georgia, but that might just make Georgia powerful in terms of pushing one of those 2 or 3 over the edge. So I think it's I don't think we can actually tell whether or not the timing is going to make one state less important or not. I think the larger issues about the integrity of the election itself are the more important issues.
Jason, what happened to the SEC primary? That was going to be a thing in Georgia.
Yeah, well, that's Brian Kemp, and I wouldn't take his guesses on who should win anything, seeing how he cheated to get his current job. But the other thing is this. The idea of Georgia being sort of this second pivotal place in the South, here's the problem. Because of some of the issues that we saw last fall, we don't know what kind of on-the-ground operations will even be allowed. You have to look, the governor just appointed an ethics commissioner, David Amati, who is now going around and suing voter organization and voter organizing groups throughout the state, claiming that they engaged in fraud last fall. So even if Georgia moves its primary back to the 24th, who knows who can actually be on the ground, because the state has a government that is hostile to voter engagement and voter involvement. That's the other reason why I wish this was on Super Tuesday, or it may not make a difference.
Cristina.
They're not just, they're hostile to democracy. And I think that people just need to keep emphasizing that as we have this debate about the date, is that these are people who've given up on the idea that they can win the majority of voters. I mean, we have the Republican Party as a whole has decided to give up on the idea that they can actually corner a majority. And so the only way they can win is by actually decreasing Democratic turnout. I mean, literally our democracy. So I just think we just need to remind ourselves again and again that they don't care about actual turnout. They want to diminish it because they can't. They've given up on being a majority party.
Well, they diminish it because they know that high black and brown voter turnout is how Democrats win. I'm not sure Democrats really
They may not get that either.
They may not get that either, but that is why they gerrymander. That is why they close polls early or open them late. That is why all the factor support of voter suppression is implemented by the Republican Party. And so I think Jason is right. The date, listen, as former party chair, everybody wants to be relevant. And everybody can't be relevant, but more importantly, it's what's on the ground, and whether we can have more people vote is the bottom line.
All relevant voices here with me this morning. My thanks to Elie Mystal, Scott Bolden, Cristina Beltran. Jason Johnson, you're going to stick around for the next hour, for the top of it at least. And coming up, the both sides